Black Friday begins like any other shopping frenzy. Bright lights, giant sale signs, crowds buzzing with excitement. But beneath the chaos is a darker energy. Something restless, something waiting. The camera drifts through a packed parking lot at 2 a.m. Headlights cutting through fog as hundreds of people line up outside glass doors. The moment the doors unlock, the crowd erupts into a thunderous wave, pushing, yelling, stamping across the polished floors. A phone drops and spins on the tile, recording the madness from the ground. Feet rushing past, carts slamming, someone screaming in the distance. For a fraction of a second, the reflection on a store window shows a pale figure standing completely still, untouched by the crowd, watching them funnel inside. No one notices. The noise fades, the doors shut, and the narrator's voice cuts in softly. Black Friday is supposed to be about deals and discounts, but every year, hidden in the chaos, something much darker slips through. The camera slowly moves down an empty aisle, stocked for the holiday rush. Plastic toys, blinking lights, mannequins frozen in plastic smiles. The narrator explains that while most people think Black Friday horror comes from fistfights and stampedes, the real stories never make the news. Security guards see customers walking the aisles hours after closing. Workers hear voices coming from locked stockrooms. Children disappear for minutes that feel like hours. And people, both shoppers and employees, report seeing figures on cameras that vanish when they check in person. The narrator builds tension, hinting that every account in tonight's video is real, submitted by the people who lived through these experiences or recorded in forgotten reports buried under years of holiday madness. With the lights dimming and the store alarm beeping in the distance, the narrator invites the viewers to settle in and listen closely, because Black Friday isn't just about crowds, it's about what hides in them. And sometimes, what walks among the living isn't there for the sales at all. Black Friday was always chaos, but nothing prepared Tyler for the year. He decided to work the night shift at Briar Ridge Outlet Mall, a place locals only half-jokingly called the Bargain Graveyard. It was an aging complex built in the late 80s, all cracked tiles, buzzing lights, and a smell like old carpet soaked in winter air. Yet every Black Friday, the mall came alive like a beast, waking for its annual, feeding thousands of people pouring in long before sunrise, hunting deals like vultures circling carrion. Tyler was 22, broke, and desperate for the holiday bonus. He signed up to work overnight at Everbright Electronics, the store famous for opening its doors at 3:03 a.m. sharp for doorbuster hour. Management insisted on that odd minute marker for some branding reason, but the employees knew the real reason. Everbright's founder was a superstitious old man who avoided the number 3 o'clock because of something that happened decades earlier, something that never made the news but was whispered among longtime employees, like a bedtime story no one should fall asleep to. Tyler didn't believe any of that, of course. He just wanted the extra pay. By 2:15 a.m., customers were already pressed against the glass storefront, fogging up the windows with their breath. The sound was unsettling, the dull, constant rumble of voices mixed with fists tapping on the glass as if testing its strength. Tyler tried not to look at them while he stocked the shelves with discounted tablets. Their eyes followed him like predators, waiting for feeding time. His supervisor, Dana, paced nervously by the entrance, whispering, "Not yet, not yet," as she checked her watch every 10 seconds. Beside her, the security guard, Victor, stood stiff and pale, gripping his baton like it was a lifeline. Something about the crowd was off. Nobody was laughing. Nobody was excited. They were simply staring expressionless, unmoving except for the occasional slow blink. It was like watching a field of scarecrows waiting for a gust of wind. Tyler tried to lighten the mood. "Looks like they want these TVs pretty bad." Dana snapped toward him immediately. "Don't joke about them. Just don't," he blinked. "Them?" She didn't elaborate. When the clock hit 3:03 a.m., Dana's lips tightened. The crowd pressed harder against the glass, the pressure starting to bend the door just slightly. Tyler swallowed. He'd been to plenty of Black Friday openings, but this felt like a ritual, not a sale. "Open it," Dana whispered to Victor. The guard hesitated. His hand trembled as he placed the key into the lock. As soon as it clicked, the doors swung open on their own, slamming back against the walls. But nobody rushed in. The crowd simply stepped inside in perfect unison, silent, synchronized, unnervingly calm. Tyler felt a cold wave crawl across his skin. Each shopper walked with the same measured pace, their footsteps falling at the exact same rhythm. "What the hell?" he muttered. Bright fluorescent lights flickered overhead. The customers spread out through the store like a hive mind scanning the aisles. No grabbing, no shouting, not even whispers. Tyler glanced at Dana. She had gone completely rigid. "They're not supposed to come here anymore," she whispered. "Who? Regular customers?" he asked, forcing a laugh. Dana shook her head. "Not the living ones." Before he could process that, a woman in a torn winter coat approached Tyler. Her face was pale, lips blue, hair stiff with frost. Snowflakes melted slowly along her shoulders, as though she had walked straight out of a blizzard. But outside, it wasn't snowing. "Excuse me," she said in a faint, hollow voice. "Is the basement open?" Tyler frowned. "Basement? There is no—" Dana grabbed his arm hard enough to bruise. "Don't answer her." The woman's eyes shifted. They were cloudy like cataracts in someone far too young. She leaned in. "I need to finish my purchase," she whispered. Her breath was icy, literally icy. Tyler felt crystals form along the hairs on his neck. Then she walked away, joining the others who were now lining up at the back of the store. But there was no register there. Just a door that staff used for storage, a door marked employees only. Except now, the sign had changed. It read, "Basement checkout clearance." Tyler felt something twist in his gut. "Dana, what is that?" Her voice cracked. "It only appears when they come back." Before he could get answers, the storage door swung open on its own, revealing a staircase descending into total blackness. One by one, the silent shoppers filed down into the void. Tyler stared. "We need to stop them. They'll hurt themselves." Victor shook his head violently. "We don't go down there." Not again. A sound echoed from the stairwell. A low, rumbling groan, like wind blowing through a cavern or something breathing. Every hair on Tyler's body stood up. One shopper paused at the top of the stairs and turned toward Tyler. Half his face was missing. Frozen flesh cracked like brittle clay. His voice came out distorted, as though spoken through layers of ice. "It's almost time." Then he descended. Tyler turned to Dana. "What is happening?" She finally broke, tears streaming down her face. 20 years ago, a fire killed 14 shoppers who were trapped during a Black Friday stampede. The founder locked the basement doors to keep more people from entering. They didn't make it out. Nobody talks about it. But every Black Friday at 3:03 a.m., she pointed toward the stairs. They come back to finish shopping. Before Tyler could move, the lights cut out. A deep, grinding sound echoed upward, a chain dragging across concrete. Then footsteps. Heavy, slow, deliberate footsteps climbing the stairs. Not the shoppers. Something else. Tyler ran. He sprinted down the aisle, knocking over displays as he went. Dana and Victor bolted in the opposite direction. The store's front doors were wide open, yet the mall hallway outside had gone unnaturally dark, like the building had been dropped into a pit. Behind him, he heard the thing emerging from the basement. A wet, dragging sound. A buildup of frost spreading across the tiles, creeping after him. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. Ice crawled up the walls, the air choked with fog. Tyler burst out into the mall corridor and slammed into something, someone. It was the woman again. The the one with the frost-bitten lips. She tilted her head. "You're late," she whispered. Before he could run, dozens of pale hands emerged from the darkness behind her, reaching, not to hurt him, but to drag him back inside. Back to the checkout he hadn't completed. Back to the basement. The last thing Tyler heard before he disappeared below was the chime of the store as intercom crackling to life. A cheerful, recorded voice. "Thank you for shopping with us. All sales are final. Welcome to Apex Stories Hub. If you're enjoying this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button, tap the like button, press the bell icon to never miss an update, and leave a comment to tell us what you think. Your support motivates us to bring you even more interesting and exciting stories. Subscribe now and stay connected with Apex Stories Hub for daily amazing content." Black Friday always brought out the worst in people, but for 18-year-old Marie, nothing compared to working her first holiday shift at Haven Mart Superstore, a massive, fluorescent-lit warehouse of endless aisles. She'd only been hired 2 weeks earlier, and management didn't care that she was inexperienced. They needed bodies, not employees. Marie was assigned to aisles 10 through 16, the seasonal section, a place she'd already grown uneasy around because it housed dozens of life-sized winter mannequins dressed in scarves, hats, and plastic smiles. Even when the store was empty, the mannequins always felt like they were leaning toward her, as if they wanted to whisper something. But she'd shrugged it off. She needed money, and a little creepiness was a small price to pay. By 11:40 p.m. on Thanksgiving night, customers had begun to line up outside. Haven Mart wouldn't open until midnight, but through the giant glass windows, Marie saw hundreds of silhouettes pressed against the glass like wet fingerprints. The store manager, Dennis, barked orders while checking his clipboard. His voice was hoarse and frantic, clearly stressed. "Everyone, once the doors open, stay in your zones. No exceptions. And avoid aisle 14 unless absolutely necessary." Why aisle 14? But Dennis didn't look up. "Just stay out of it." She felt a chill crawl up her spine. Aisle 14, the center aisle of the winter showroom, was always uncomfortably cold compared to the rest of the store, even when the heating blasted. And it had the mannequin that Marie hated the most, the tall one in the far back, wearing a long, dark red winter coat with a fur hood covering most of its face. She never liked how the mannequin's chin was visible, just barely. It was too human, too real. At 11:59, the crowd outside became restless. She could hear them shouting, pushing, banging on the glass like animals desperate to get in. When the clock struck midnight, the doors opened and chaos flooded inside. People surged through the entryway, screaming, running, shoving, tearing apart displays as if survival depended on getting a discounted blender. Marie stayed pressed against the wall near aisle 12, clutching her walkie-talkie. She repeated Dennis's rule in her head: stay out of aisle 14, but chaos doesn't obey rules. Minutes into the opening rush, Marie heard a sharp crack, the sound of something falling, followed by a woman's scream. It came from aisle 14. She hesitated. Management told her to avoid that aisle, but her instincts told her someone might be hurt. She stepped toward the aisle entrance. The temperature dropped instantly. Her breath fogged. A faint frost coated the front display shelves, but something else made her freeze literally and figuratively. All the mannequins had changed position. The winter mannequins always stood in perfect alignment, facing forward like soldiers awaiting inspection. But now, every mannequin in the aisle was turned toward her. Not fully, just slightly, like they had shifted an inch when she wasn't looking. Marie blinked. No, they didn't. But deep inside, she knew they had. Someone cried out again, further down the aisle. Marie forced her legs to move. "Hello, are you hurt?" As she walked deeper, the mannequins seemed to lean inward. The aisle narrowed, shelves tight and suffocating. Her walkie crackled. "Marie?" Dennis's voice cut in. "You're not in aisle 14, are you?" She whispered back. Someone screamed. "I'm checking." "No." His voice sharpened. "Do not go in there. Do you hear me? Marie?" Marie. She let the walkie hang at her side. Because she had seen something. A woman lay sprawled on the shiny floor halfway down the aisle, her shopping cart toppled beside her. A shattered snow globe glittered across the tiles like tiny stars. The woman was trembling, breathing fast, eyes wide in terror. Marie rushed toward her. "Are you okay?" The woman pointed with a shaking hand. It touched me." Marie looked around. "Who touched you?" The woman's voice cracked. "The mannequin. It grabbed my sleeve." Marie felt all the warmth drain from her face. She looked at the mannequins again. And that's when she saw it. The tall mannequin in the red coat, the one she always hated, was no longer in the back of the aisle. It stood directly behind the injured woman. Its head tilted slightly downward, as if studying her. Marie staggered backward, heart pounding. No way. The woman crawled backward in panic. "Make it go away. Make it go away." Marie grabbed her, helping her stand. Together, they hobbled toward the end of the aisle, but Marie kept glancing back. Each time she looked, the red-coated mannequin seemed closer. Finally, they reached the aisle entrance. Two customers passing by helped the woman away, leaving Marie alone. She turned back to aisle 14. The mannequin was gone. Every single mannequin was back facing forward in their original positions, as if nothing had changed. Marie stumbled away, shaking violently. The air warmed slightly as she left the aisle, the frost thinning from her breath. But she wasn't safe for long. 30 minutes later, customers flooded the store in even greater numbers. Marie tried to distract herself by folding winter scarves in aisle 11. Her fingers trembled with every tug of fabric. She kept hearing footsteps behind her, soft, slow, deliberate, but whenever she turned, nothing was there. She forced herself to keep working, until she saw something that almost made her scream. A single red thread lay across the floor near her feet. She recognized it immediately. It was identical to the threading from the red-coated mannequin's sleeve. Marie felt the world tilt. She backed away, clutching the walkie. "Dennis, I need security near seasonal." Now, static. Then a voice, but not Dennis. A cold whisper. "Marie." The walkie slipped from her hand, clattering onto the tiles. No. She whispered, tears stinging her eyes. She turned to run, but the lights above her flickered and died. The store plunged into darkness, except for aisle 14. That aisle glowed faintly, illuminated by a cold, bluish haze, like moonlight from nowhere. Marie felt pulled toward it, like gravity had shifted. In the eerie glow, she could see silhouettes inside the aisle tall, unmoving figures, the mannequins, except there were more now. 5, 10, 15, standing shoulder to shoulder. And at the very front, blocking the aisle entrance, stood the red-coated mannequin. Its hood was no longer covering its face. Marie's legs trembled. She couldn't breathe. The mannequin's face wasn't plastic. It was human. Frozen skin, frostbitten lips, cloudy eyes locked onto hers. Snow dusted its hair. Its expression was blank, but its eyes were filled with something like hunger. Marie tried to scream, but her voice broke. The mannequin lifted its arm, slowly, stiffly, as if thawing from ice. It reached toward her. Marie ran. She sprinted through aisles, knocking over displays, shoving past customers. People shouted at her, confused, angry, but she didn't care. The cold was spreading. She felt it behind her like winter itself was chasing her. She burst into the employee hallway and slammed the door shut. But something caught the door before it closed fully. Something strong. Something cold. Marie shoved with her whole body, but the pressure on the other side was relentless. She screamed. A hand, gray, frozen, with cracked fingernails, slipped through the gap. Marie pushed harder, tears streaming. "Stop! Stop!" The door suddenly gave way. She fell backward as it snapped shut. Silence, then a single faint tap on the door. Tap, tap, tap. It was polite, almost gentle. Marie crawled away, shaking uncontrollably. She didn't dare go back to the sales floor. She found Dennis in the break room, pale as a ghost. He already knew. "They always return on Black Friday," he whispered. "Those mannequins. They were modeled after real people. A family of 5 who froze to death outside Haven Mart 20 years ago. The store used their likeness without consent. And something about that night, it didn't sit right. Ever since then, every Black Friday at midnight, the family comes back. They roam the store until sunrise." Marie stared at him, trembling. "Why me? Why did it follow me?" Dennis swallowed. "Because you went into aisle 14. She cried openly now. "I'm quitting. I'm never coming back." He nodded slowly. "Most people don't." That morning, when the sun rose and the store reopened, the mannequins were found neatly in place again, including the one in the red coat. But Marie noticed something no one else did. A fresh set of footprints. Wet, melting footprints led from aisle 14, all the way to the employee hallway door. If you ask old employees of Grand Line Mall about the worst Black Friday they ever worked, they won't mention the fights, the stampedes, or even the massive blackout that shut down the mall for 7 hours. They'll tell you about the basement, a level the public wasn't supposed to know existed. A level where storage, old decorations, and forgotten maintenance equipment gathered dust in the dark. And a level where, according to rumor, someone or something still walked the tunnels long after the mall closed. Eli, a 24-year-old maintenance worker, didn't believe in any of that. He'd only been at Grand Line for 4 months and assumed all the ghost stories were just part of the mall's creepy charm. But on Black Friday of 2016, everything changed. The mall opened at 4 a.m. that year, and by 3:30, Eli was already sweeping the lower-level hallway, listening to the muffled thump of footsteps as early bird shoppers gathered outside. Manager radios crackled with chatter. Security guards took their positions. The atmosphere vibrated with anticipation. At 3:58 a.m., Eli heard the mall speakers flicker as the automatic doors unlocked. A wave of bodies stormed the building, flooding escalators and aisles like water bursting through a dam. But as the crowd surged inside, the lights in Eli's hallway dimmed, then flickered, then went out. "Not again," he muttered. Another electrical glitch. He checked his phone, no signal. The mall basement always killed reception. Pulling out his heavy-duty flashlight, he radioed security. Basement hall just went dark. "I'm gonna check the breaker box." Static, then a faint voice. "Copy, but don't go alone." Eli frowned. The voice didn't sound like any security guard he knew. It was shaky, nervous, but protocol was protocol. The longer the basement glitch lasted, the more risk it posed to the mall's electrical load. So he went. At the end of the long hallway was a door marked "Authorized personnel, only sub-level access." Eli swiped his T-card and stepped into the stairwell. The air grew colder as he descended. His breath puffed lightly in front of him. "Damn, heating's down too?" he whispered. He reached the sub-level landing. Only emergency lights glowed dim red bulbs that barely pushed back the shadows. The entire basement smelled like old cardboard, metal, and wet concrete. As Eli walked deeper, he heard a sound. A slow, dragging noise. Not footsteps, not machinery. More like something heavy being pulled across the ground. He pointed his flashlight down the corridor. Empty. He kept walking, pushing past towering stacks of boxed holiday ornaments, Deflated mall Santa props and broken mannequin parts shoved into large carts. The farther he went, the louder the dragging became. He spoke into the radio again. If someone's down here, you need to identify yourself. Silence. Then, don't. Look at it. A voice, choked and breathless. Eli froze. Hello? Who is this? The radio hissed and died. Great. Real helpful, he whispered. He reached the breaker room, a heavy metal door that screeched when he pulled it open. Inside, rows of dusty fuse boxes lined the walls. One panel flickered erratically. There's the problem, he sighed. But before he touched it, he heard something behind him. A soft, rhythmic tapping, like fingers drumming on metal. Eli slowly turned around. Across the hall, barely visible in the dim red light, stood a figure. Tall, thin, motionless. A mannequin? No, its shape was wrong. Too uneven, too slouched. Its head tilted unnaturally to the side, chin pressed to one shoulder. Eli raised his flashlight. The figure ducked backward faster than a person should move, vanishing behind a stack of boxes with impossible speed. Eli's heart thudded. No, hell no. He grabbed his walkie again. Security. I need someone in the basement right now. No response. The dragging noise returned. But now it was closer. Much closer. Eli stepped backward into the break room, gripping his flashlight like a weapon. His eyes darted over the dim hallway. That's when he saw it again. A hand, pale, long, thin, resting on the floor just past the doorway. Not moving, just waiting. Eli's chest tightened. His instincts screamed to run, but he had nowhere to go except deeper into the room. He forced himself to speak. I don't know who you are, but this is restricted. You need to go back upstairs. The hand twitched, then slowly curled its fingers. Something crawled forward, shoulders scraping the floor, joints cracking quietly, breath wheezing like broken lungs forcing air through ice. Eli staggered backward as the full figure emerged. It wasn't a person. It wasn't a mannequin either. It was something between. Its limbs were too long. Its spine was arched like a bent hanger. Its face god, its facelift sculpted, not more. Smooth skin stretched over features that almost resembled human ones, but not quite. Eyes made of black glass bulged from sockets too shallow to hold them. And its mouth hung strangely open, corners stretched unnaturally high, as if permanently carved into a grotesque imitation of a smile. It stared at him without blinking, without breathing. Then, in a spasmodic jerk, it crawled forward faster than any living creature should move. Eli slammed the breaker room door, shut and threw his weight against it. Something slammed into the other side, a second later hard enough to rattle the hinges. Bang, bang, the door shuddered. Help, someone help. Eli screamed into the walkie. Through the static came a faint voice. It woke up. The banging stopped. Complete silence. Eli didn't dare move, didn't dare breathe. Then a whisper, spoken right through the metal. Eli. His blood froze. It knew his name. He forced himself to turn back to the breakers. Think. Fix the power. Fix the damn power. He flipped the primary switch. The basement lights flickered to life bright, blinding, buzzing overhead. And for a moment, nothing happened. The hallway was empty. The crawling thing was gone. Eli exhaled shakily. Okay, time to leave. But when he opened the breaker room door, he saw something that made his stomach twist. Footprints, not shoe prints, bare footprints. Wet ones, leading deeper into the basement. Nope, not following that, he muttered. He headed back toward the stairwell as fast as he could. But the farther he walked, the more wrong everything felt. The emergency lights flickered. The temperature dropped. A faint crackling echoed through the halls. Then the overhead lights blew out one by one like dominoes falling in darkness. Pop, pop, pop. The basement plunged back into the black. Eli ran. He sprinted blindly, relying on memory and instinct more than vision. His flashlight beam jerked wildly across walls and ceiling as he raced through the maze of storage items. He turned a corner and collided with something solid, something tall. His flashlight slipped and rolled across the ground, illuminating the figure it crashed into. It stood perfectly still. Its head snapped toward him with a sharp, cracking sound. It wasn't the crawling creature. It was a mannequin, one he had never seen before, dressed in a tattered Black Friday promotional vest. Its arms were wrong bent backward, joints reversed. Eli stumbled backward, tripping over a box. The mannequin stepped forward, its movement jerky, stiff, but deliberate. Then, from behind it, the crawling thing emerged, skittering across the floor like a spider with broken legs. Eli turned and ran again. He reached the stairwell door, yanked it open, and felt something cold brush the back of his neck. He didn't look back. He bolted up the stairs, taking them 3 at a time. The moment he burst into the main mall hallway, the lights returned. Music played. Shoppers laughed. The chaos of Black Friday continued as if nothing happened below. Eli collapsed near a pillar, chest heaving, drenched in sweat. A security guard rushed at him. "Hey, you okay?" Eli grabbed the guard's vest. "The basement, something's down there. Something's wrong." The guard's face went pale. "You weren't supposed to go alone," Eli screamed. "Why is IT down there?" The guard swallowed hard. Because years ago, the mall stored hundreds of discontinued mannequins in the sublevel after a shipment error. Except they weren't mannequins. They were part of an experimental AI display robotic models with lifelike movement. The company recalled them after incidents, malfunctions, aggression, but Grand Line never returned. Eli stared in horror. "They've been waking up every Black Friday," the guard whispered. Triggered by the surge of electricity when the mall opens, Eli felt sick. "Seal it off, lock it, destroy it," the guard nodded grimly. "We try every year, but they always find a way." Black Friday, it's like their alarm clock. Eli quit that day, and Grand Line Mall, it shut down 3 years later. But employees still swear something moves inside the boarded-up building every Thanksgiving night, dragging across the floors, waiting for the next Black Friday. As the final story fades out, take a moment to breathe, because the truth behind nights like Black Friday is much darker than most people ever realize. We think the danger comes from crowds, long lines, and desperate shoppers fighting over discounted TVs. But sometimes the real horror hides in the places you'd never think to look behind closed aisles, under flickering lights, or buried deep below the floors we walk on without a second thought. The people in these stories weren't hunting for deals. They were just trying to survive the night. And what they saw, what they felt, still follows them long after the sales end. So the next time you step into a store before sunrise, or wander through a packed mall, with alarms blaring and lights cutting in and out, remember that not everyone who walks those halls is there to shop, and not everything that moves wants to be seen. If you enjoyed tonight's journey into the shadows, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss more true stories that lurk just beneath the surface of everyday life. Until next time, stay alert, stay safe, and whatever you do, don't look back when the lights go out.